If I was a betting man, what is the one draft strategy that I would choose this season to win a fantasy football championship? Hit that like button and stick around because we're going to talk about that and the top 24 quarterbacks for 2019. Headliner Nation, what is going on? It's Kyle coming to you from the draft.com studios. That sounds good to say. Jake's been able to say it a couple of times, but I have not. So this is the first time I've gotten a chance to say it. Really excited about that partnership with draft.com. However, our studio sponsor this year, coming from the draft.com studios, excited about that. Thanks so much for tuning into this episode of the Fantasy Headliners. If you haven't seen them yet after this video, make sure you check out wide receiver. Make sure you check out running back and tight end because we've already dropped those ranking videos. You can get to those right after this one. However, we're going to talk about the top 24 quarterbacks. We're also going to talk about the late round QB draft strategy because I think that is a championship winner this season. I'll explain why in just a moment. But before we get rolling any further, let me tell you real quick. Number one, hit that like button and hit that subscribe button. Make sure you become a part of Headliner Nation today if you haven't done so yet. And if you are new to Headliner Nation after this video, leave a comment letting me know so I can personally welcome you to the greatest, in my opinion, the greatest YouTube community that you can find. Number two, though, in just a few short days, we're going to be releasing the 2019 Fantasy Headliners Draft Guide. Make sure that you pre-order that right now, thefantasyheadliners.com, $19.99. And let me tell you, it was going to be one of the best bang for buck opportunities out there for you this season to win a fantasy football championship. So get yours today. Let's get into it. Let's talk about the top 24 quarterbacks and a few pieces of information I want to share here with you because I've been very vocal on Twitter about why a late round QB strategy is the best one to throw out there this year. Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter if you're in a 1 QB league, if you're in a super flex league or a 2 QB league. I really strongly feel like, I'm so strong about it. I'm so excited about this episode. I'm standing up. I'm not sitting down like I normally am. That's how fired up I am to talk about quarterbacks. But this is the deepest we've ever seen the quarterback position for fantasy football. There's going to be a couple of guys at the end of the QB2 round, like 23, 24 in that area, that you're going to be like, Kyle, why do you hate these guys? It's not that I hate them. It's just that there's so many good quarterbacks this year that it's going to seem like I hate them because I have them that low, and I'm not doing it on purpose. It is just because it is such a deep position this year, and that is why you can use a late quarterback strategy to win this season. Let me tell you a quick QB thread. Again, this is something I put on Twitter, and I want to read it to you here on YouTube if you haven't seen it yet. Since 2012, there's only been 5 quarterbacks that have finished back-to-back in the top 5, and those quarterbacks were Brees in 12 and 13, Newton in 12 and 13, Luck in 13 and 14, Manning in 13 and 14, Peyton Manning, and Wilson in 14 and 15. And it's been 3 seasons since we've had a quarterback finish back-to-back years in the top 5 for fantasy football. Does it happen this year with Patrick Mahomes? Also, when it comes to ADP, there was only one quarterback that was taken in the top 5 of ADP last season for the position that actually finished as a top 5 quarterback, and that was Deshaun Watson. There is a ton of draft capital to be had at this position this year, so you can wait on quarterback, and you're going to find yourself a couple of guys that are going to help you win a championship, even if you decide to pass on those top quarterbacks. And my top quarterbacks, let's start jumping into them. And the one thing that I want to remind you about with these positional ranking videos, we have 24 guys to talk about, so this video itself isn't going to be nearly as deep diving as maybe some of the other videos that we do. But if you want to see those deep diving statistics, we've got them for you. Make sure you check out all of our videos because we have some really in-depth stuff that you'll love. This one, though, is more of an overview. Again, we're going over 24 quarterbacks, and we'd like to keep these videos a little bit on the shorter side so you can either A, get to another video, B, get to work, C, get back to your family, D, all the above. It doesn't matter. What we're going to jump into it right now. Andrew Luck comes in at number 1 for me. I told everyone last season he was my quarterback 6 in my rankings during the winter last year. I said that this was a guy that he He's going to be healthy. Don't worry about that shoulder. He's going to come back and have a good season. They've added Devin Funchess to the wide receiver corps there. Paris Campbell is also coming through in the draft. So 2 good weapons there to add to a wide receiver corps last year that just didn't have a whole lot of talent. But you got Eric Ebron, you got Jack Doyle, hopefully Jack Mother and Doyle, as we call him on this channel. Hopefully he's back and healthy. Nyheim Hines, one of the best, if not the best offensive line in all of football. Chalk up Andrew Luck is your quarterback 1 because that is where he's going to finish this year. Aaron Rodgers coming in at number 2 for me. I think he bounces back. He didn't have a bad year last year. He still got you a ton of yards. He just didn't deliver on those touchdowns. However, his interceptions last year, spot on. So hopefully he can keep those interceptions low, get those touchdown numbers back up, throw for as many yards. If they can deploy Aaron Jones the correct way, Aaron Jones could be a key for Aaron Rodgers this year, because if he is used correctly, he could really help to open up the passing game as a whole. And if a guy like Marquez Valdes-Scantling takes a step forward in year 2, if a guy like John Allison bounces back completely healthy, then he's got more than enough weapons. And then, of course, the great Devontae Adams. Patrick Mahomes at number 3. I love Patrick Mahomes. I just expect a little bit of regression for him this year. That's why he is still extremely high up here. I just have him a little bit lower than that QB1. I don't think there's nearly the separation that we saw from quarterback 1 to quarterback 2 or 3 or 4 last year. I think they're a little bit closer this year, but Patrick Mahomes for me. Coming at quarterback 3, we do have that question. What's going to happen with Tyreek Hill? Damian Williams, is he going to be the guy for 16 full games? Do they have to bring in Carlos Hyde to really take over that job? What happens? Lots of question marks for me still there. Still a good season, just not quarterback 1. Deshaun Watson, I brought him up a minute ago already. He was the only top 5 ADP to actually finish as a top 5 quarterback last year. Another good season on the way. Would have liked to see that offensive line upgraded a little bit more than what it was, but that's okay. Will Fuller, hopefully he is back and healthy. And this team, again, a good dynamic offense there in Houston. Don't worry about him. He's going to have himself a good year. Baker Mayfield, you might think he's a little bit too high and say, oh, well, we didn't see a full season last year. Sometimes the people that argue about Baker Mayfield just hate him, and that's why, and I get it. If you don't think Baker Mayfield should be this high, let me know why in the comments below. Always glad to hear that. We just ask that you be respectful. Give us a good argument, and, we'll have a little debate back and forth, but that is okay. Baker Mayfield coming in at number 5, one of the best offenses that you're going to see this year. He's got his boy Odell Beckham Jr. there to help now. Obviously, Nick Chubb, Kareem Hunt when he comes back at the end of the year, David Njoku, Jarvis Landry, Antonio Callaway. We know all about those guys. They're going to have a good year. Matt Ryan coming in at number 6 for me. Really like that offense this year. If Devonta Freeman can stay healthy for 16 games. Some people argue that will hurt Matt Ryan because they'll focus more on the run game than they did last year. I think it helps them, though, if they can get that dynamic runner back that they used to have. And not only runner, but pass catcher. I think that still helps Matt Ryan. He's a top 10 quarterback for me this year easily. Jared Goff coming in at number 7. Cooper Kupp is the main guy there. Even though I think Cooper Kupp on himself as a wide receiver, I don't love this season. I don't love nearly as many as other people. I still think he's important for Jared Goff and that offense because of what he can do to, help keep things open over the middle of the field. Then obviously you have Woods and Cooks on the outside. So I like that offense. I think Cooper Kupp, if he can be back and healthy, helps Jared Goff a lot. Jared Goff was a completely different quarterback from the beginning of the season till after that injury last year. Jameis Winston, people, let me tell you, he was second last season in terms of average depth of target. This is a guy that he threw deep a lot last year. He really did, and Bruce Arians is going to exploit that again this season. Mike Evans, Chris Godwin. We've already talked about O.J. Howard as well, and I brought this up in the tight end ranking show that O.J. Howard has averaged 16 yards per reception since coming into the league. They're going to throw the ball deep. They're going to throw the ball a lot because that defense sucks. And if he can get a little bit of help at running back to just help keep those defenders keeping their eye in the backfield and not necessarily the wide receivers, that helps as well too. Jameis Winston, please don't sleep on him, people. And I'm telling you, this is why I'm saying a late quarterback draft strategy this year, because I personally will pass on all of these guys above Winston. I'm going to pass on all of these top ADP guys above Winston, and I will be fine going into the season with Jameis Winston as my quarterback 1. He's still going to have some interceptions, and I'm ready for that, and I don't care. However, I think he's going to have the touchdowns, he's going to have the yards, he's going to have the completions. I'm excited for what that offense can do. Kyler Murray coming in at number 9, and I know that there's going to be some questions about having the guy this high, but I think you're going to see a lot of scrambling options for him. I think you're going to see a lot of QB runs for him, so he's going to amass a lot of yards on the ground, I believe. He's going to also get into the end zone through the air and on the ground. I think he is a good enough passer that even though this offensive line is very bad and will be again this year, that they can move him around and do things with him, and I believe in Cliff Kingsbury. I know a lot of people question that decision. I don't. I think he's a great offensive-minded head coach, and that's what they're going to do there. And don't forget David Johnson. He's got a really good quarterback, and he's got a ton of veteran leadership as well, and Larry Fitzgerald to really help him grow. Very dynamic back that can do a lot of different things. That's why I have him so high up there. Also, I don't think the defense will be nearly as good this year, so I think they are going to have to throw and try to stay in games a lot. Russell Wilson coming in number 10 for me. I love Russell Wilson. Just don't love him this year. He was my number 1 ranked quarterback at one point last season, just because I thought that with that defense maybe being a little bit down last year, and it ended up being actually pretty good, that Russell Wilson was going to throw the ball a lot, and it just didn't happen. Doug Baldwin was obviously injured. They ran the ball probably a lot more than what we expected them to, and I think that they run a lot again this year. I do think Russell Wilson can finish as a QB1, though. Kirk Cousins at number 11. He's got a full season now in that offense. He's got a full season with Diggs. He's got a full season with Thielen. Hopefully Dalvin Cook can get back fully healthy this year. If all those things happen, he finished as a QB 13 last season. So even though he got a lot of hate and people are kind of probably going to be like, how can you have him as a QB1? I only have him 2 spots higher than what he finished last season. And now he's got two full off seasons and a full season under his belt working with those guys to help develop that relationship and that timing. I think you see a better Vikings offense in 2019. Dak Prescott coming in at number 12 for me. And if I'm not talking about Dak Prescott in a quarterback video, then who am I? Obviously, I love Dak Prescott. If you have been a part of the channel for a while now, you know what I feel about him. I said he was a quarterback 1 last season. I mentioned him as a must-own in another video just because his ADP was so low. And again, this season, he's like the quarterback 19 and 20 in a lot of draft formats. And I don't get it because Dak Prescott is the only quarterback over the last 3 seasons. He is the only quarterback to finish higher than his ADP each season. He gives you a tremendous value. Couldn't even get it out there just because of how strongly I feel about tremendous value. He gives you such a tremendous value, and now he's got Amari Cooper. He was an easy quarterback 1 from the time that Cooper came on to the Cowboys last year till the end of the season. I don't expect anything to change. Dak Prescott is a quarterback 1 for me this year. That offense is going to roll. Don't think twice about it. Going into number 13, Ben Roethlisberger. I got him a little bit lower than maybe some people just because I do think they focus on that run game a lot more this season than they did last season. I do think that, last season, as much as he threw the ball, I don't think he can do that again. And I'm also not just walking away from the notion that this offense is going to be the same without Antonio Brown. There's a part of me that just thinks, you know what? It's going to be a little bit different. There's going to be a little bit of a learning curve not having him there. I like Juju Smith-Schuster. Don't get me wrong. I think he's a very good offensive weapon, but you don't have Juju and AB. You don't have Juju and AB and Le'Veon Bell. You're probably going to not use James Conner in the same exact way as you did last year. Can Jalen Samuels step up and really help take on some of that load to keep Conner healthy all season? There are some pieces about that offense that worry me. Phillip Rivers coming in at 14. We know about Melvin Gordon and Keenan Allen. Can Mike Williams take the next step? But the biggest factor for me this year is Hunter Henry being back and fully healthy. Hunter Henry, we love him here on this channel. He's our boy there for the Los Angeles Chargers. We shouldn't be messing that up now. Anyway, he's our boy there for the Los Angeles Chargers. Excited to see him and back and healthy this season, and he's going to be a big-time guy. Cam Newton coming in at 15, and a lot of people are going to be like, Kyle, that's way too low on Cam Newton. And there's going to be other people like, Kyle, it's way too high for Cam Newton. Because you either love Cam Newton or you hate him. There's no really in between. But let me tell you, the one thing that concerns me are the goal line carries? Are they going to look at Cam and say, you know what, we're not going to be using you in the red zone the same that we did in past season because we've got to keep that shoulder healthy. We can't have you taking that head-on collision. We need you to be as healthy as possible. We can't afford to have you down the stretch be injured again. Let's put Christian McCaffrey in more and more often. Let's utilize him more and more often. The focus of this offense is going away from Cam Newton and it's going to Christian McCaffrey, and we're going to see that trend slowly start to change here. We saw it last year a little bit. We're going to see it this year a little bit more, but that's a big difference for me because I don't think Cam Newton, based only as a passer, and we're going to throw out his MVP season. We're going to toss that to the side. Based only on his passing ability, I don't think Cam Newton is a passer as a quarterback one. I think he has to have those rushing touchdowns and rushing yards to help push him up a little bit higher. I like Cam Newton, don't get me wrong. I don't hate him in any way, shape, or form, but I already mentioned it. The depth at the position this year, okay, it's going to push him down a little bit, and that is why, because I think we're going to lose out on some of those ground touchdowns that he's had in the past. Moving on, Drew Brees at number 16. Where are we going to get the Drew Brees from the first half of 2018 or the second half? He's obviously got the weapons there. He obviously has a new tight end in Jared Cook that could help quite a bit. Alvin Kamara, are we going to see him utilized more and more? Mark Ingram is gone, but we have Latavius Murray now. I'm scared to really trust Drew Brees too much, but the upside and the potential is there, and that's why I have him a little bit as a higher quarterback too. Carson Wentz, the only reason I don't have him higher is because of the running back stable that they have there. I mean, obviously Miles Sanders, who is my running back one in this draft, he is there. They're going to utilize him a lot this season. Jordan Howard is there. You're going to see him get quite a bit of carries. They have Wendell, don't call it a Smallwood. He's there as well. Josh Adams is still there. They've got so many running backs that I think that they're really going to focus on the run game this year, winning games with the run and with their defense, and Carson Wentz isn't going to rack up those offensive totals nearly as much as that we've seen in the past. So that's why I got him a little bit lower. After Carson Wentz, I've got three sophomore quarterbacks: Sam Darnold, Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, back to back to back. The tail of the tape with these three quarterbacks is inconsistency. Don't get me wrong, Sam Darnold, I like Sam Darnold in that offense, but he had some inconsistencies. He started the season well, then he disappeared, then he finished the season well. Did he figure out those inconsistencies? Josh Allen, can he really work on that passing? I think teams are going to key on the run with him and Lamar Jackson this year, and they're going to try to take that away as much as possible. If they can take that away and say, beat us with your arms, I don't think Allen and Jackson are at a point yet in the passing game that they can beat teams solely with their arm. I think they still have more work to do with that. That's why these three are not going to be a quarterback one for me this season, because even though they each possess different things, and especially Allen and Jackson with their legs, I just think the inconsistencies are a little too much. Derek Carr coming in at 21. He didn't have a bad season last year, but he's got Antonio Brown now. He's got Josh Jacobs in the backfield. I definitely think that he's a guy that, because that defense is going to be so bad in Oakland, that he's going to be passing the ball so much that just from accumulating a bunch of stats can keep him as a quarterback too. Tom Brady, he was one of the biggest busts in fantasy football last year. He was being drafted as the quarterback 3 for almost all offseason and didn't finish anywhere close to that. Because of that, I do have him finishing lower, because this is a team that has already said, we are going to run the ball and run the ball and run the ball, and we've seen that with Sony Michel. They still have Rex Burkhead there, obviously James White in the passing game, but they also drafted Damian Harris. With all those things being taken into consideration, does it happen again, and does he have the offensive firepower to be the passer that he once was? Andy Dalton coming in at 23. I think that this is the Joe Mixon show this year. There are some people who are down on Joe Mixon. I am not one of those people. I do think this offense is going to be really, really good. I think it's an offense that's going to put up some points. I just don't think Andy Dalton is going to be the guy to do that all on his own, but he's going to do enough. He's going to do enough. And I'm sure a bunch of you are going to hate on me for Mitch Trubisky at number 24. But again, it isn't because I think he's going to have a bad season. It's because this quarterback class is so deep. I think the difference between a quarterback 1 and some of these quarterback 2s, not the quarterback 1, but like your low-end quarterback 1s, I think the difference between between them and some of these QB2s isn't going to be more than a few points here and there, maybe a dozen points or a couple of dozen points or something like that. But that's the reason why that, again, I'm urging you to use a late quarterback draft strategy this year, regardless of the format that you're in, unless you're playing in some crazy scoring league where it's like you have to have a good quarterback to win. Then maybe you use a really early draft pick on one. But if not, go late round strategy with these guys, because a lot of these guys that you can get, if you tell me that all of my fantasy teams this year are going to have a Jameis Winston and then like a Derek Carr or a Mitchell Trubisky or maybe a Carson Wentz, maybe a Phillip Rivers, Ben Roethlisberger, like something like that. If you tell me that, I'm good with it. I don't need Patrick Mahomes. I don't need Aaron Rodgers. I don't need Andrew Luck to win this year, because while you're taking all those guys in like the 3rd, 4th, and 5th round, I'm going to be spending a late round pick on the guys that I just mentioned, and I'm going to be using a 3rd and 4th round pick on my running back 2, my wide receiver 2, my wide receiver 3, my tight end 1, whatever it may be. I'm going to be boosting up my skill position players while you're taking quarterbacks. And I honestly, again, I'm urging you not to do it this year. I already read you some of those stats at the beginning of the show. This is a very deep position in 2019. There's not going to be nearly a separation that we've seen between, again, a low-end quarterback 1 and a quarterback 2 like we've seen in the past. I hope you enjoyed this episode of the Fantasy Headliners. Don't forget, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button to become a part of Headliner Nation today. Also, share this video on your favorite platform, whether it be Twitter, Facebook, text it to your friends, doesn't matter. We appreciate all the support of Headliner Nation. Make sure you pre-order your draft guide as well. Hit those comments up below. As always, hit those comments up. We just ask that you be respectful. If you don't agree with anything here, let us know. Just give me a good stance as why. We'll have a good back and forth on it. I appreciate everyone's support, and we'll catch you on the next episode of the Fantasy Headliners. Have a good one.